Matthew,
thank you, Steve, and thank you for bringing this item onto the agenda. I was privileged to receive this petition and hand it over to you at the last cabinet meeting. I had got things to say, Steve, and as I'm sure you're aware, it's like me to have a speech to give, but I couldn't top what's been said today. I really couldn't. I'm really amazed by the number of people who turned out today. It's quite clear the passion, and this is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. The number of people who've contacted me directly, people I've gone for a walk in the woods with, people I've met at meetings over years. It is very clear the passion and commitment. This isn't a flash in the pan. This isn't a few people getting a bit upset. This is an entire community mourning in advance for the loss of an area of land which has been held up as the soul of their community. They're appealing to an administration that said that Skirningham was wrong, that said they'd heard the public speak, they'd listened to their wails of anguish, the list of pledges made that you would do if you were brought back into administration. And this question was asked, what have those been done? There's nothing more I can say about what we said. I'm really pleased people have been here and had their say, and I'm sure they're all doubling their efforts. The fight goes on.
Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'll just repeat what I've said along the way every time that Skirningham has come up under this administration. The Conservatives faced into the local plan, and it was controversial. It's been controversial along the way. We took the political hit, we lost seats, and ultimately we lost control of the council. Skirningham, the local plan, I believe, was absolutely central and one of those key policies where there was a clear difference. The difference was the Conservatives had committed to that local plan, but the rhetoric coming out of the Labour Party in 2023 was very different. They were going to be as bold as stopping the local plan in its entirety. Now, the people who are in charge of this council now have been sat around meetings like this for almost 30 years. That's the leader and that's the deputy leader. They know fine well all of the different processes that a local plan has to go through. So I can only arrive at the fact that actually the Labour Party during the election lied to the public just to get votes, because it wasn't plausible that we were going to cancel Skirningham in its entirety. But again, this is just one of many examples that we've seen over this administration making election policies like they're going to bring back the market into council ownership. You've U-turned on that. You've U-turned on scrapping Skirningham in its entirety. So it's vital that these members of the public have come out, because some of them did give you votes and got you back into the town hall. And I just want to repeat the point. We faced into it, we probably got the position wrong, but we faced into it. We lost control of the council. You lied to the public, you gained votes, you got in control, and you've completely abandoned your manifesto.
I think you did go somewhat off topic there, Jonathan. We'll leave it. Are there any other members about the same? In which case, can I hand over to Chris to respond to the various points that have been made?
Thanks for that, Steve. Okay, well, the first thing to say is I will seek to address each speaker, but before I do that, I want to thank all of the speakers, some of whom I meet when I'm walking by, to be fair. So I've had some of these points raised to me directly over the years, but in particular I would seek to thank Lottie and her friends for taking the time and also showing the passion. And if you want, I'd love to be, addressed by your school council and have these issues. But if you want to take that way, that offer is open to you. If you want me to come to say. The other thing I would say to speakers is I'd like to particularly thank those who haven't spoken before, because it can be quite daunting, but also if you wish to get a written response, because that might be more expansive, I'm quite happy to do that, but given the volume, give me a couple of weeks to do that. I'm sure we've got the questions in writing. Firstly, Leanne Carroll, she's right about what she said about our commitment, and let's be very clear. This was a Conservative plan. We are living with a Conservative plan. I did vote against this plan, and I've told people this repeatedly, and I'll say what I said in when the plan was approved in 21 or 22, that I do believe in the need for additional housing, and I'm going to say that day in, day out. I do believe in the need for additional housing. We have a waiting list of 2,000 households or families in this town. Interestingly, 1,100 of those, 1,100 households, cite Winfield as a choice. So let's not lose track of that. I have family who've lived in rented accommodation, right, with mould on the walls. It's right that we deal with some of the housing challenges in this town and in this country. But we need to do it sensitively, and as I've always said, we need to do it, and in doing so, be very mindful of the environmental impact. And we've talked about the impact of BMG, and to be fair, the previous government's commitment, which we've carried on, that there must be a 10% growth in bio-net diversity within any development of a certain size. And I just say we have an ecologist who's well regarded in this borough, and one of the only boroughs in the area to do that. And believe me, I do look at the work she does, and I have walked around Skirning with her, so she's cited on the issues, and I have great confidence in her, as I'm sure colleagues around this table of varying political persuasions do. In terms of Leanne's comment, which has been raised before, in writing and also in this chamber, where we talked about the master plan over the last 3 years, I am very clear that we did look at all the options. We weren't privy to them prior to election, and Steve, myself and colleagues looked extensively at what the options might be. One of the clear things that became evident to us was if we were to start another plan, the extant plan would remain in place. We spent time developing a master plan and a design code, and at that time I said, and I'll say it now, this is not the end of the road. So if people say stop this, well, what are we seeking to stop? That Skirning is an allocation. We've got a local plan review, which is a paper coming later on. But in terms of the specific applications, I'll say now what I've said before. Residents, citizens, or interested parties have an opportunity to make representations, and I would urge you to make those representations, whether it's on Pat's comments about flooding or sewage and the like, such issues such as that. I would urge you to make those representations. David, in terms of your comment, you're right in terms of some of the stipulations about primary school, and you're right about it will be considered. What I'm very clear on is there is capacity in the school system, so whilst I accept the arguments that a primary school can be a hub of a community, we do run the risk actually, if we develop up to a certain point and there's still capacity in our schools, we run the risk of closing another school, so that needs to be taken in the round and considered going forward. In terms of Pat's comments about sewage and also the risk of flooding, we've seen the flooding in Rockwell, which is actually doing what it's designed to do to a great extent, as it was designed 30, 40 years ago. Just to be very clear, as part of the planning application process, which some of you may understand, the Environment Agency and Northumbria Water our statutory consultees. They will stick their hands up. They will make representations if they are not satisfied. So that's something that will go forward in the planning process if these applications go forward. In fact, Peter, you made some comments about B&G and the 10% increase. That's a fact. It's assessed at planning. I've mentioned that we're the only authority locally to have our own ecologist, so we're going to be all over this like a rash, so to speak. And these issues are assessed rigorously. They're assessed rigorously at planning, and no doubt they will be challenged in the interest in that. And that's right and proper, and it's the right thing to do. On nature protection, that again will feature in terms of the planning process, and we'd expect interest from the ecologist. I'm going to leave comments on Lottie and friends in the actual statement that I've put until last. Adele, many thanks for your comments and taking the time and courage to step up. You've asked some highly technical questions about the relationship. I do not have the detail tonight to hand. I will give you a written response in terms of our relationship. What I do know is, and it's common knowledge, I think citizens have been in the area for a number of years, predating all of this work. I certainly have been involved in this, the scaling proposal in 2016, and I'd make a brief comment, and I've made this comment before, and it goes back to why did I vote against scaling them out of the local plan, and it was because of scaling them, and at the time, the change enacted by Councillor Jamie Barch, who was the cabinet member for economy and regeneration, was clearly to make something that could have worked suboptimal, in my view. And I said that then, and I'll say that now, and we're dealing with the consequences of something that is in the plan. We can't ditch it until we have a new plan, because if we were to do that, the existing one stands, so developers could come forward. Mr. Jackson, I will give you a written response, and I think you were referring to another development in my press comment, but you did say, and again, and I've heard this time and time again, and let me be clear, I value skating, I walk skating, my wife runs skating regularly, and from my perspective, certainly the area where I walk, which is the River Walk, that will remain, and we'll seek to enhance that. But I go back to your assertion, who needs these houses? Sorry, can I carry on? Is that all right? Yeah, thank you. Good. I go back to the assertion, and this is a serious point, and it's not a laughing point at all. We've got 2,000 people, right? We've got 2,000 family units or households on the waiting list, and 1,000 of those are for Winfield.
Put some affordable housing there.
Can I ask members of the public not to interrupt? Members on the table have courtesy to sit and listen quietly. It's Chris's opportunity to respond. Please have the courtesy to listen.
And just on the issue of affordable housing, for those that know, there's a big debate about what is affordable housing, but working with Councillor Matt Roach, who has been an absolute champion for this, we still own our own stock. Matt and I are very keen to work with colleagues in the council and also Homes England and bring forward not just affordable but social rent housing for this borough, and that's what we're fighting to do. So you've got a valid comment about the need for affordable housing, particularly social rent affordable housing. Tyler, can I can I thank you for your comments? I know you're passionate about this. You've spoken before. I take on board, and I would absolutely agree with you about the need for green space in terms of enhancing citizens' health and well-being. My view would be we will still have green space, and we need to build on that. It's not all going. We're a very well-greened borough. In that respect, a lot of the skirting walk, which interestingly, whenever I'm up there, I don't see a lot of people walking, and I always remember, I always remember some people from skirting actually, who live up there, who actually said we don't want people coming up there. I think more people should be using it. Alison, I take on board your comments, and I go back to, as this goes forward, and I'd say to everybody, and I've said this before, this is a varied stage process. We've got a local plan that exists, we've been through a master plan, which has been quite exhaustive, we've got a design code, but more importantly, we have a planning process which is quasi-judicial, and I would urge everyone to make those representations. So that's my new story. I would urge everyone here to make those representations at planning. I've got no idea when they're going to come forward, but it's an opportunity for you as the public to continue to have your say. And finally, I would also make the point that we are embarking on a local plan review. That's coming up on the Cabinet. The documentation will be going out to consultation. This is an opportunity for you to have your say. Two final points, Chair, if I may. One, I'd urge colleagues, people in the audience and residents who've asked a question, if you could be kind enough to email it through the Democratic, and I'll seek to get a written response. And finally, I hope you can join me in giving Lottie and her valued colleagues stroke team a round of applause for having the courage to our famous for finally, right? Finally, Lottie and crew, can you please, and we can help you with this, can you submit your petition to the planning department in the event that a planning application does, well, there are some planning applications on the table, so they are submitted formally and placed in evidence to be considered by the planning committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. That concludes item 6, which is the petition to Cabinet.